Hi, Theo here again. Welcome to Cider School Part 2 of the apple. This week we're going to dive a bit deeper into what is inside the apple and some of the cultural topics related to our little friend here, the apple. Last week we covered the history and natural evolution of the fruit. This week we'll go deeper from the blossom into the actual flesh of the apple, while also brushing over some of the kind of symbolism that lies deep in our culture, in our everyday lives. So enjoy. Where I live, in southeast London, in an area known as Telegraph Hill, this hill was once covered in market gardens and small orchards, with some gardens still hanging on to some ancient fruit trees from the area. I have cut this small branch from a neighbour's garden of an unknown apple variety, which currently is coming alive with blossom. Like many other fruit trees, this time of the year is when we see the blossom and foliage of the trees springing to life. In winter, the apple trees lay dormant. On the branches are buds, some of which contain leaves and others that contain 5 flowers, as we see here. With warmer spring weather, the leaf buds unfold and flower buds begin to grow on the ends of the twigs. The flowers have many parts that are crucial to the formation of apples. The sepals, 5 green leaf-like structures that make up a flower's calyx. Petals, the part of a flower that attracts insects by their colour and scent. Stamens, the male reproductive part made up of an anther and a filament. The anther, the part of the stamen that produces pollen. The filament, the stalk of the stamen. The pistil is the female part of the flower made up of a stigma, style and an ovary. The stigma, the top part of a flower's pistil. The style, the part of a pistil that connects the stigma and the ovary. And the ovary, the rounded base of the pistil, inside of which are 5 compartments, each containing 2 ovules, female reproductive cells that become seeds. Inside each flower are the male and female parts that make a new apple grow. The male parts are the stamens. If you look inside the apple flower, you can see all the stamens sticking up in a circle. At the top of each stamen, pollen is produced. Each flower produces thousands of these pollen grains, which are all the male cells. The female part of the flower is named the pistil. Right in the centre of the flower, we can see these tiny tubes with sticky tops. Further toward the bottom of the flower, these small tubes meet in the ovary. This is where all the female cells are held and eventually will form the inside core of the apple. Honeybees are attracted to the apple flowers by nectar and the scent of the petals. As the bee collects nectar, it also picks up pollen. When the bee lands on a flower on another tree, it brushes against the pistil of the flower, leaving pollen grains on the sticky stigma. The pollen grains are sent down through the styles to reach their ovary. This is our pollination. Through the filament, the sperm present in pollen can reach the ovules that are in the ovary. The fertilized ovules will become the seeds in the apple. Once the fertilization of the flower has been completed, the petals will all fall to the ground. The whole process happens over a matter of days. This is when an apple will begin to grow, and it grows right at the spot where the flower meets the stem. As the fruit begins to grow larger, the outer wall of the ovary develops into the fleshy white part of the apple. This is what's edible to us. The inner wall of the ovary becomes the apple core and protects the seeds. The seeds are the fertilized female cells, which then carry on the genetics to become a new one. When looking at the apple, we should observe the simple features that are obvious to our eyes. Firstly, cut open an apple from the top to bottom, let's say. We can see the pedicel, or the stem, top of the apple, the protective skin barrier around the outside, the remains of the sepals and stamens and stigmas at the bottom of the apple, the flesh inside, then the seed cavity in the centre. Some have reference to the ovary centre as containing containing the seeds like the shape of female genitalia, and symbolising the apple as a symbol of sexual desire, strongly linked to the origins of life story in Christian religion, Adam and Eve. Eve is the second human created by God, taken from one of Adam's ribs and shaped into a female form of Adam. She is more intelligent and curious about external ideas than her husband. Though happy, she longs for knowledge and, more specifically, self-knowledge. Her first act in existence is to turn away from Adam and look at and ponder her own reflection. Eve is extremely beautiful and thoroughly in love with Adam, though may feel suffocated by his constant presence. One day, she convinces Adam that it would be good for them to split up and work different parts of the garden. In her solitude, she is tempted by Satan to sin against God. Adam shortly follows along with her. The apple is also an icon of the most modern eras and often symbolises something we want, we desire, something we can't live without. Apple Computer Incorporated had an original logo of Newton sitting underneath an apple tree in his mother's garden in Lincolnshire, with an apple hanging overhead ready to drop. Later, the logo was changed to the striped rainbow apple with a bite taken from it, symbolising the knowledge taken from it. Another key point is that the Macintosh in the company name references the famous North American apple of the same name. Slicing the apple across the centre also opens up a new section of imagery and interesting characteristics of the apple. You will see the 5 seed chambers of the apple, flowering in parts of 5 or multiples of 5 as we saw with the blossom. You can see 10 dark spots. These are the remnants from the flower blossom. This shows there's 10 stamen bundles which attach to the hypanthium flesh during the fruit's growth. Also, in early Christianity, this 5-pointed star shape represented the 5 senses, or Jesus' 5 wounds on the cross. The ancient Greeks saw it as representing the 5 elements of fire, earth, metal, water and wood. The apple tree fosters love and hatred, good and evil. However, under the lovely shiny red surface we sometimes find wormholes, earwigs and a core completely rotten. Not every new bite is as sweet as it promises. Upside down, with 2 points facing up, it's a symbol of the evil, the goat of black magic, imagery now used often in some cult societies. In the past, the pentagram was commonly seen as a symbol for good and for protection against evil, but it was the influential 1800s French occultist Eliphas Levi who associated the pentagram with the goat-headed Baphomet by drawing a pentagram on the Baphomet's forehead. Anton LaVey, who created the Church of Satan in 1966, took the idea from Levi. The Church of Satan's official symbol now is an upside-down pentacle with a goat head inside. Apple trees symbolise beginnings, abundance, and the Garden of Eden, but they also mean enlightenment, experience, and the future. If the apple has often carried the blame for human mishap, this fruit has an unparalleled capacity to go on growing and giving us fresh starts. Now then, if you enjoyed watching that video and you want to expand your knowledge and get some good reading under your belt, why not purchase a few books that I've enjoyed reading related to apples and cider. First of all, The Apple Orchard by Pete Brown. The New Book of Apples by Joan Morgan and Alison Richards. They also do one on the pear. Obviously Fine Cider by Felix Nash. And of course Ciderology, written by the ciderologist himself, Gabe Cook. There's also a few cider as zine publications out there for like Malice from North America, also Full Juice and Graftwood over here in the UK. Thanks for watching, thank you for your time, and see you guys soon. Goodbye.